Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we're diving back into the world of collegiate esports and high school esports, and in both of those educational aspects as well, with the guest today of PJ Bannon. He is the head coach and coordinator of the competitive esports team at St. Peter University, as well as being a head coach and coordinator of the esports team at a local high school he teaches at as well. So without further ado, PJ, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in esports and kind of where it all began and how that took you to where you are today.
Great. Hello. So I am PJ Bannon. As Kyle mentioned, I'm the head coach and coordinator at St. Peter's University. But really the esports journey starts well before that, as a lot of us, as we do. I was a pretty competitive esports player for about 15 years now. I started with a very early game called Dystopia, which was kind of an Overwatch precursor sort of thing. And I liked competing a lot, but it became clear as I got into college that I wasn't going to be a professional player. So I started pivoting towards the coaching role, and I developed, I started an organization with one of my friends. We ended up coaching the number 9 ranked Heroes of the Storm team in North America. And we had a really good Counter-Strike team. They were in ESEA Maine, made playoffs a couple times. And from there, I started teaching high school as my primary job. And I knew I wanted to integrate esports at the high school level as much as possible. I wanted to start a team. I wanted to teach a class. I wanted to get esports as an academic pursuit started, because it was the marriage of my two loves: my esports, my coaching, my playing, and academics, which, and putting them together at the high school level was really a great opportunity. And then I came in contact with the coordinator of the St. Peter's University esports program. And I essentially begged him. I said, listen, I need to be your coach. You don't have a coach now. I can do this. Let me do this. This is how I get into collegiate esports, please. And he let me do it. And we worked together very well. And we've built a really good program.
Awesome. Sounds fantastic, to say the least. It's kind of where we all start our grassroots, right? Back in the day, grinding whatever competitive game we used to play. I remember back, I was a Rainbow Six player, obviously more recently, last couple of years, but love that grind, right?
Yeah.
But alas, not all of us can go pro, sadly. That is incredibly hard to do, to say the least. But kind of looking at St. Peter's a little more closely, tell me, what games you compete in, what games you have teams on, and what competitions you play in as well.
We participate in the ECAC and the EGFC. The EGFC is directly associated with our athletic conference from the school. So it's interesting to kind of tie in the kind of more athletic rule set of how the students need to behave, which I think is good. It's like a code of conduct thing. The games we play in, we have a lot. Only there's some varsity and some like non-varsity, more club level, and that's really, if they're EGFC, they're varsity for us. If they're ECAC or like the Rainbow Six has their own league, that's considered club. We have Rainbow Six, Hearthstone, Valorant, Rocket League, League of Legends, Overwatch. Oh my goodness, we have a lot. So let me go through
So many games.
my Discord here. FIFA, Fortnite. Where am I? Smash is one of our big ones. Call of Duty. We're just starting an Apex team. Some various fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
I think
so
that's
basically
about
everything.
as much as we can get our hands on, yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome, right? Because the more the merrier. Because a lot of people have that misconception of esports being a sport, where in reality the games are the sports, right? No university just has football, right, or just has basketball. You have football, basketball, baseball, swimming, track and field hockey, ice hockey, right? So on and so forth. Same thing in esports. That's awesome to see that you have all those opportunities for all the students in your program. But you touched on an interesting point there of how the EGFC, I believe that's, unless I'm misspoken, has a traditional kind of sports mentality behind it from that behavioral perspective. So take me through that a little bit more, what those expectations are and how you think that either helps or hurts. It sounds like it helps kind of the overall structure of those leagues and competitions.
Well, it's definitely it's interesting. It's a wildly different angle than the ECAC and TESPA and all those other
Mhm.
leagues where we are part of the meetings for the MAC athletic conference. And so a lot of things that don't maybe seem like they make sense for esports, like no rescheduling is big for people who are big in athletic conferences.
Mhm.
With esports, it's a lot easier to reschedule than it is to reschedule an entire football game where you have like 16 buses for just the equipment, right? We have to just sit down at our computers at a different time. So things like that, we try to like finagle the rules. It's like, well, can we not be as stringent on this? The grade point average rule is something that is more strict in athletic conferences. So that's something we have to adhere to. Some other conferences do have the GPA sort of rule, but we need to report and be very specific. And it's a lot more, than kind of the loosey goosey world of esports otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that GPA rule, and some leagues are just like, yeah, you need a 2.5. Oh, my team is a 2.5. Okay, sounds good, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
exactly.
actual official, like you said, reporting of like you actually have to provide some level of a transcript or academics has to sign off on it, right?
Yeah,
Which obviously I think that's a good thing, right? Having a good GPA is a good thing.
absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of crazy to hear because that's very against the grain, so to say.
Yeah.
But awesome at the same time. I think it provides a little more structure. So because rescheduling is easier, but at the same time, like, hey, I want to play 9 o'clock next week. Well, can we play 9 o'clock now, next week? And
Yeah.
I've heard that kind of go back and forth in leagues at any level. So it's either, hey, you need to play today, or it is what it is. Um, Kind of transitioning to the high school program that you're the head coach and coordinator for. Take me through that. Give me the snapshot. What games do y'all have at the high school level? What competitions do you play at? And so on and so forth.
We started with just one Counter-Strike team, I believe, and then we picked up an Overwatch team. This was about 4 years ago at this point now.
Mhm.
And we participated in the High School Esports League, HSEL, and they were great. They were very flexible. It was really just, I think, starting up at that point. We were the first, I think, official esports team in our county. Maybe I don't want to say state because that's a big statement, but 4 years ago, I'm not really sure who was around official esports wise. And now we participate, well, pre-COVID, we participate in the Hudson County Esports League at the Helix Esports Center, which is the biggest esports land center in the country. And we did live competitions. We had live practice times. We had 2 days a week where we would go for a couple hours and we would practice all of our teams. We have a Smash team, Overwatch. They have League of Legends. We didn't participate in that. And we would go and, I would coach the teams live in person. And then once a month, all the teams in the area would show up and we would have this insane live, huge LAN competition between all the schools. And it was just so full of energy and so exciting. And it's really one of I can't imagine high school esports is where it is in my county right now. I feel really blessed to be in the location I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you have a lot going on there, which is awesome, right? Because I see at the high school level all the time that, especially for the players, it builds a really great sense of community, right? Kind of finding those
Mhm.
like-minded individuals that have the same interest. Obviously, that's kind of how you build a cohesive community in anything, right? Especially in these sports where you have that mantra where kids are usually a little more lonely, kind of a little more secluded. It's really easy to bring out their character. That
Yeah,
sounds
for sure.
like exactly what you have, which is awesome to say the least, and very important for all kids. Everyone should be able to find that place or that home for themselves within various communities.
It's
Kind of
great. And I
saying,
think it's, go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it. Go for it. Absolutely go for it.
I think it's one of the few activities, we're the only club or sport in the school, whatever, your high school
Mhm.
designates it as, that is, we're a grade 7 through grade 12 high school. We're
Mhm.
the only activity that is fully grade 7 through grade 12, completely integrated. So it's great on our Overwatch team. We have this young girl who was a seventh grader when she first started.
Mhm.
Excellent support in Overwatch,
Mhm.
and just seeing the social interaction and making friends. There's these 10th graders, talking to these seventh graders, and then they know each other in the school, and then it's like this comfort level for everyone. Where, as you mentioned, it can be often very secluded, and just seeing this person being able to have this comfort level with people who are older and really just make friends that way is really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, that's a phenomenal thing to see. And if you can help build that platform anywhere, that's just absolutely incredible. Kind of staying on the same level of education, talk to me about some of these classes that you're currently teaching that's really bringing esports into the classroom.
Right. So this year I'm teaching an esports analysis class. Um, I tried to get it on my schedule, and usually my school is pretty lenient with me, and they kind of let me do what I want within reason. And I didn't know if this would be within reason, but
Mhm.
they pretty much immediately said, "Yeah, go ahead and do it." They didn't even ask for a curriculum or anything. So I was like, "All right, well, you really trust me, don't you?" So yeah, we're teaching that now. We started with a little bit of chess, which is turning into an esport somehow.
Yeah.
Um, and we moved on to a course which I designed, which is a self-paced Hearthstone class, which talks
Mhm.
about probability and stats, but not in a boring math way. You're really
Yeah.
just literally playing Hearthstone. And through just learning how to play Hearthstone, you cover all of these educational standards. Um, which I think a lot of people don't realize. You know, I think a lot of gaming curriculums that I look at, they focus on trying to make gaming educational rather than you're playing a game and that is the education. Like you are getting that experience, this wide breadth of experience from doing this. The unit we're doing right now, which I think is a great example of this, is I'm giving my students moves or from Final Fantasy 14, and we're taking one of the classes, and I'm going through the level progression with them, and we're talking about being efficient with your DPS. Like, what is the most efficient rotation that you can do based on these factors? And it gets really complicated, and students don't usually in school do this kind of high level thinking where it's this like integrated web of, you know, how does blizzard interact with fire, and when do you transpose to your other element, and like it's so complicated, and the students really enjoy it because it's from the lens of this game. And I think it's something that I really look to try to do in education. I want to make these courses for, you know, strictly like playing a game and making sure that everyone knows it is educational. It's not, you know, we're not designing an educational game for these kids to play and it's real cheesy and there's this little stick figure character. Like, we're playing these esports, and that is educational.
Yeah, absolutely. The sheer level of analytics or maths or statistics that goes into kind of any esports title is absolutely insane, right? You talk to a pro team that really dissects their matches from like a DPS perspective, or like, hey, how quickly do I need to rotate positionally to make sure that with X amount of time left in the round that I'm in the right position to make sure that I can execute, you know, a bomb plant, right? In any kind of traditional FPS. It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane how detailed that is and how much knowledge you need from a mathematic is kind of like that common kind of centric piece because it's numbers driven
Yeah.
standpoint, right? And being able to spur that, you know, passion at a young age to be involved in some of those subjects that are considered more boring, right, by the mainstream, right? Everyone's like, oh, math, I don't want to study math, but it's fun, right? Esports makes it fun. It's that
Yeah, for sure.
application that kind of sparks that interest, which is great, right? Because the kids are doing something they love at the same time as they're learning valuable skills they can take to college and then into whatever job they decide to pursue, whether that's inside esports or not. So
Absolutely. And I think
absolutely agree.
the biggest thing that esports teaches kids, not just kids, anyone really. This it taught me this at 22 when I decided to get my life together.
Mhm.
It teaches you how to ask, what can I do better? Like, what did
Yeah.
I do? What did I perform? What happened as a result? You know, it's
Mhm.
completely unbiased look at your actions versus what happened. And I think that's
Exactly.
really important to get at that age.
Exactly. And it's kind of, and everyone wants to be better at the game, right? So it kind of sparks that inner drive to get better, right?
Yeah.
And that inner drive goes, is just really easy to bleed that over into any part of your life, right? Whether that's inside the game or outside the game. You know, all esports athletes always say, the good ones, the pros are like, hey, I need to make sure my life is balanced outside the game just as much as I put time inside the game, right? If I'm not eating right, if I'm not sleeping right, probably not going to play too well either, right? Having that inner drive
Absolutely.
to make yourself better for and out of esports, obvious, everything right there is just a win, 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 win.
Definitely.
But unfortunately, we are running out of time here. I've had a fantastic conversation with you, PJ, so far today. I'll leave you with one last question. I leave this with everybody.
Sure.
Is looking at the esports industry as a whole, right? Obviously, we've talked about a number of different kind of levels and sectors within esports as an industry. You know, esports right now is obviously massive. It's growing super quick. but it's not quite accepted in a mainstream fashion yet, right? You don't see it on national news. You don't see national coverage like Valorant, right? Last night was First Strike, massive game last night, a ton of audience, but it's kind of within the esports world, right? Not necessarily like, when the World Cup is on, the whole world watches, right? So my question kind of like, what steps do you think the industry needs to take, that next step, to make sure that we continue to grow and get to that level where everyone's like, hey, Valorant First Strike is on, I'm turning it on tonight, just in the same thought as the Super Bowl or World Cup or whatnot?
I've thought about this before, and I'm aiming to tackle this with what I'm trying to do with my esports venture. I think it starts with first getting the college league set up, the high school league set up, middle school league set up, doing it the same way that you would do football, where kids would be really excited to start their football league, as soon as they're of the age to do it. It's like, oh, we can put on pads now and play. What it would be great if we can have a kid who's 10 years old be like, oh, this is the Overwatch camp? Really? Like, I get to do this now? Like, and I think that's how you do it. You build this interest where the parents are involved. The parents can be coaches like they can for football. You're like, no one knows how to coach football, but we all pretend we know, right? Like if your dad is coaching your local town's Overwatch team in your town's league, I think that, that kind of, I want to say grassroots, but really it's, that this is how things form and how you grow interest. I think that's the root of it.
Yeah, once you have that grassroots interest, it maintains itself throughout the rest of your life. Right? Like you said, there's nothing really more awesome than playing for your dad on a baseball team and you're not, right? Kind of everyone does it at some point. Most dads are a coach or an assistant coach or a base coach in baseball or whatever sport. Same thing in esports, right? It's kind of like it's starting to get there, but having little league for Overwatch, right? Or League of Legends, right? And it's like all of a sudden you start these interests so early and it's accepted, right? You don't feel like you're by yourself or ostracized for playing video games with whatever connotation that has in whatever light. So absolutely agree there. But unfortunately, we are out of time. PJ, if you will, real quick, go ahead and plug your programs. Tell us where we can find you on Twitter, social media platforms, websites, anything that you want to plug.
My college esports team, we are at SPU Esports on Twitter and Twitch. We are a little slow on that in COVID as things are a little crazy, but we will be back on it as soon as we're allowed back on campus. Besides that, the high school I like to keep a little, we're tucked away a little bit. I don't like to advertise the socials too much on that.
Absolutely, no problem at all. Well, once again, thank you for your time. Had a wonderful discussion about esports, a number of different facets today, which I love doing, to say the least. To all our viewers and listeners, thanks for sticking around the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy out there. COVID's still a thing, sadly. Hopefully that goes away sooner than later so we can get all of our lands back, which I desperately miss. And until the next time, stay plugged in.